Hello, everybody. How's it going? Welcome to episode 36 of Climbing the Ladder. Had to check. This is going to be our 2012 year in review episode.
End of the world.
End of the world version. Yes. It won't be our last CTL for this year, but the last one we're kind of all together. So. Yeah, exactly. We'll be doing
3 days left.
We'll be doing CTL in the afterworld. No, but but yeah, so what we're going to do in this episode is we're just going to be kind of recapping 2012 and kind of doing the best and the worst, just X, whatever events, moments, players, that sort of thing. Not the worst player, but you kind of get
worst
my drift.
Player?
About.
That would be me in League of Legends.
No, that'd be me. I played one game of StarCraft.
I'll fight you for it. I'll fight you for it, John.
That would be hilarious. Watching
show
us
match. Loser makes the dinner.
Makes a dinner from across the ocean.
Yeah.
So for those of you wondering where Mark is, we're kind of wondering that ourselves. So
yeah, where is that guy?
He might pop on in a second or two, and we'll switch the overlays once he pops on. But he's supposed to be here, and obviously he's supposed to be here also to talk a little bit about the quant enclosure and just kind of answer any questions with that. We'll be taking some callers kind of throughout the show, not necessarily saving it all towards the end, just kind of mix it in, maybe in between breaks or that kind of thing. So I will let you know when it's time to call in, and as always, the way to call in is to add me on Skype. My Skype ID is ChanmanV, and I will pull you into the call. You don't actually have to ring me. I don't have that sophisticated call-in system like Wheat has, unfortunately, but one day I'll figure that out, and then we'll have, we won't have to switch. I won't have to switch the overlays every time a caller calls in. But all right, guys. So 2012, pretty big year for eSports, I'd have to say. Obviously, coming into 2012, I feel like we were very, very bullish. I think on everything, and I think the result of that was the first half was just a lot of content and a lot of planning, I think, for events, and obviously ending out the year. Last month was probably the craziest month ever in terms of scheduling and tournaments, right? Just that were all compacted into the 6 weeks. So yeah. So what do you guys think of 2012 just from a high level standpoint first?
Go ahead, Paul.
I don't disagree with you, Chris. I think it was it's a crazy year when you think about it. I mean, I have obviously, like John, been around for a number of years, and I don't think I've seen a year like this before. I think it sort of goes back to what I said earlier on in the year. I think there was an interview I did February time, and it's that esports has had this kind of like this rise over many years, probably over 10 to 12 years, and every now and again it sort of plateaus, and then sometimes it goes down a little bit, and then it goes back up again, and it always returns higher than it was on the previous peak. And I don't even think in my wildest dreams I thought that 2012 was going to, go up at quite the rate that it did, and sort of culminated really in November, which was, as you said, rightly, the craziest month I've never been in a position, personally, where I had a choice of 7 different events, and I could only attend 4. And there were weekends where there were actually 3 different companies all asking if I could go to the same event, different events, and having to pick them, which is, that's extraordinary for someone like me anyway. And I think that was what we found amongst many of the commentators, the hosts, and the observers, particularly in StarCraft 2, was that we were all just massively in demand. Now, I don't know if that's just because of a general lack of good hosts and commentators, which we can argue about perhaps later, but it does show you that it was an incredible year in terms of the content. And what really impressed me, though, was the quality of all of those events. Mm-hmm. It wasn't that we just had a ton of events and they were all mediocre. There was some really, really fantastic events across the board and all around the world. So yeah, I think it was amazing 2012. And I had a meeting at the weekend in Germany. I was over in Cologne talking to the ESL guys in preparation to move over there next month. And we went through the calendar for next year. And I have to tell you, I can't reveal what it was, but Jesus, I mean, I thought I was going to be busy next year, but holy crap, that calendar is absolutely packed. And I think people are just going to absolutely love 2013.
Yeah. Packed but not overlapped?
More
really
organised. Yeah, I think that's the key. Is that calendar for esports next year looks like it's going to be much more organised, and I think if all the plans come off, because they're not all set in stone yet, I think people will be much happier that there are massively quality events for next year, but that actually it's been planned and plenty of leagues have been involved in talking about when theirs are and when they want to do theirs, and the publishers are also involved. So I'm really positive for next year.
Can you just? I know that we're supposed to be going over what the best of 2012 was, but you just said something. Can you elaborate? Do you know what publishers have been involved in this, or are you able to say?
I'm not really able to say, John. I think
Okay,
it's the meeting I had was a very high level meeting at the weekend. And it was really just to fill me in on what my job will be as part of all of that, and I have to tell you, it's already insane. But it's much more organised insanity, if that's even
Organised chaos.
Organised chaos, absolutely.
Right.
So no, I can't really say too much. I think there'll be an announcement, hopefully in the new year, if not sooner. And when it comes out, I think people will be really pleased with what's planned for next year.
Awesome. What about you, John?
Well, to elaborate a little bit on what Paul said, about the highs, and then it dips a little bit in esports. I mean, we go through a little bit of a lull, I think, where people are trying to figure some things out, and then it just skyrockets from there and gets better. What's interesting is I would say it was a year ago maybe that there was all the talk about esports on television, and that was apparently going to get us to that next level. And I think that people can see now that we've got a long ways to go, because everything we did this year was just absolutely insane. The number of events that were happening, the sort of quality that was happening, the connections that were being made, and we're still not to TV yet. Personally, I don't think we need to get there. I think what we did this year is a perfect example of what can be done. The numbers, whether they're actually, factual numbers or not. I mean, they have to be somewhere in the ballpark, of course. There's a lot of good numbers this year that are really pushing esports to that next level. I mean, I think once we get it, we bridge that gap, we get to that cusp where we reach over and grab all the everyday gamers into our world a little bit. I think I can't imagine how big it'll be then. The number of events was staggering, of course. I remember, years ago, I thought it was pretty cool if I got to go to like four events a year, and either administer them or just be a part of them or whatever. And
Right.
I thought that was great. 4 events. This is sweet. This is living the life of esports. I think literally, Paul, didn't you say 20? How many events did you do this year?
I think it was 23 from memory. Yeah, which is interesting because it is, and obviously I had a full-time job during the week as well, and I've got two children on the other weekend. So when you sort of add it up, I remember the last weekend I really had off, which is fine. I enjoy working, so it's not a big deal, and I'd obviously love the job, so this makes it easier. But yeah, 23 I think is the single most events I've ever done in a calendar year, other than excluding the CGS years, which obviously don't sort of count because we were doing TV shows every other day, 3 times a week. So other than those, if you discount any TV work, it is the busiest single year I've personally ever had, and I was part-time.
Yeah, it's the same for me, and I'm just, I'm more of a tournament consultant or director or whatever it may be. It just depends on the event, and I still went to more events this year than I probably went to total 3 years previous to that. I mean, 2011 I obviously did a few events as well, but let's say 2010 and to 2005 I didn't do as many events as I have in the last 2 years, especially this year. It's been crazy.
Yeah, I'm literally just looking at the event list on my site right now, and I did 2 in 2011, 3 in 2010. I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I did 12 in 2009, which was a busy year. So yeah, I've actually done more events this year than I've done in the 3 years previously combined. Yeah,
that's absolutely crazy. I'd be curious to find out who is the one person in esports, the super fan, the fanatic fan. How many events has
they gone
one
to?
Person? Yeah, I'd be real curious.
That'd be interesting.
Those that are listening now, I just put in numbers of how many events you went to this year.
Yeah, it's like
you
somebody
physically
following a
went to.
festival or something.
Yeah, I mean,
And do you know what the
obviously,
funny is?
go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, John. The funniest thing is that even 3 years ago, if we'd said in a chat show like this, type in which events you went to this year, almost no one would type any events.
Right, right.
And
Yeah.
now people are, like three.
Zero. A bunch of zeros.
And,
right
and,
now.
and here's the thing: is most people can say they've gone to zero, but the difference is that they've actually been a participant of, or they've been a viewer of
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
numerous
That's
events
that's
this
me
year.
right
Yeah.
here.
You could
But
say up to
people, I mean,
52.
people in the channel have actually physically been to some of these events. Some people are saying 3, 4. That's pretty extreme for a year just for a fan. I find that incredible.
Yeah. I mean, it's not easy to.
Shows you how far we've come.
Yeah, again, it's not easy to fly to these events. Like
No.
a lot of people working it. At least a lot of the times, the organization covers the cost at least of the flight and lodging. So the fans don't get to do that. The fans actually, all comes out of their pocket. And,
Styjo doesn't count because he's actually supposed
Yeah.
to go to 8.
exactly.
Oh, okay. That doesn't count.
Well, I'm right there with you. I mean, I only went to one event this year, but I logged in probably a crap ton of hours watching the events. So I can't even count it. So I'm not going to even guess. But I probably watched every single event. I think I watched every single event, at least some of almost every single StarCraft event. I think I almost I can't think of one I didn't watch, honestly. So, yeah.
So best one of the year then. I think that was the
best one of the year for me.
yeah.
Best one. So there's kind of one A and 1B, and it's
Yeah.
kind of been it's a lot pretty similar for a lot of folks. I mean, it's not that different from a lot of folks. So the top one was probably WCS Europe for me, because I mean obviously because of the production and everything, but the storylines panned out. You know what I mean? The person I wanted to win, the person that was gonna, I feel like the fans were rooting for, or just he won the tournament. You know what I mean? It wasn't a Korean that ended up winning it, right? I'm thinking of the right one, right?
Yeah,
Nurture
absolutely.
won
Yeah,
Europe,
Stefano.
right? Oh, Stefano.
Stefano won WCS Europe.
Yeah, Stefano won Europe. Yeah, so Stefano winning Europe, I mean, that's just an amazing storyline itself. So,
Yeah.
So I think because of that one kind of edges out IPL for me. I think IPL, I mean, they were just lacking the storylines really working out for them. Like Hyun winning, something for them, or the international team beating the Koreans, or even just the foreigner making a good run. They had none of that work out for them. Yet they still had, so much innovation, and they for the most part, the production was amazing with GOM, and just the planning of it was just so good. And especially after they had some mishaps earlier in the year, and a lot of folks were holding their breath. They executed well, and for me that counts a lot. So those are my two favorite events, or the best events in my.
Interesting.
my opinion.
It's funny, because obviously I got to experience a few of these events by working at them, so that was quite nice. So mine's a little bit weird. I think the best ones I attended quite a lot of really good events. I really enjoyed the UK WCS one. I think it was probably the best thing we've ever done in the UK for eSports as a solo tournament. But I think, WCS Europe just had everything. It had the storylines, it had fantastic production, the setting, where we were, the crowd were incredible, the people online were incredible. For me, it just had everything. So from a personal point of view, very much I enjoyed WCS Europe. Intel Extreme Masters, CBIT was also just as insane in terms of the amount of people in the crowd, and hosting on that stage and doing Counter-Strike as well was fantastic. So those two events stand out for me personally, but I think I would be remiss if we didn't mention the fact that MLG have had some cracking stops this year. IPL 5 I thought was crazy, even though I didn't watch it live. I watched some of the VODs. I just thought, wow, these guys have rocked the shit out of this production. It really is fantastic. But then we also had the International, and we also had the League of Legends World Finals as well. And I think both of those, as single events, stack up amongst the best of the year. So
the International is one of my favorites too, actually.
Yeah. So I think, fair do. I think it sometimes it matters which game it is for someone that it's very personal. And sometimes it matters whether you attended in person or whether you worked on a show as well. So it's always very hard ranking the best of the best. But they're I suppose 4 or 5 of my favourite events from the year that I have worked on or haven't worked on.
I mean, the one comment about the international. Sorry, John, but one
No,
comment
it's
about the
fine.
international is that I forgot. I like was thinking about that earlier today, and I just like totally forgot to mention it. That game, so the beauty of that event, which is it was I felt like it was one of the best too, is that I don't even know Dota 2 very well. Like
No,
I
not
don't
me.
play Dota 2 at all.
No.
But as a
No, but it was
spectator,
enjoyable.
it was
Yeah,
it
it was
was
enjoyable.
like very very enjoyable. And then I like a lot of people that know me like the closing video that they made, kind of the recap video
Yeah.
of all
Yeah.
3 days. Oh my god, that was
Yeah, that
freaking
was
beautiful.
pretty
Yeah,
awesome.
it was. I mean,
Holy
funny enough, I
smokes,
think
that was awesome.
that was actually one of the reasons why I enjoyed WCS Europe, because I'd be backstage and the production guys would come over and they'd be like, "Okay, Red, you need to come and have a look at this video. We're going to play this, and you're going to lead into it." Okay, so I sit down and watch this thing, and I've got chills all over my body. My hairs are standing up, and I'm just watching it backstage without any sound. And I'm thinking, "Holy crap!" And so what it does is it makes me feel kind of, well, nerd chills is probably the only way I can explain it. But I'm then standing on stage presenting to a couple of thousand people in an audience. I mean, there's 100,000 people watching at home, and I say the words, something like, "This is DreamHack," and then this ridiculous produced video rolls, and people just go, "OMG!"
Right.
Because it's like I've built it up, I've done my job, and then the video runs, and it just goes, "Hello, I am very special." And you're just like, oh, how can you not enjoy that video and then be totally hyped for the rest of the time? And of course, that hypes me, it hypes the crowd, it hypes the people online. And then you come out of that video and you introduce the first game, and then the first game's amazing, and you get that ridiculous grubby game as well that he had.
Oh, gosh.
That he had tears in his eyes coming down the thing, and he thanked me afterwards because he said, "I'm so glad you didn't talk to me about the fact that I was crying, because that would have made me worse."
Which event was that
that was-
again?
that
That he
was
was
one of
crying?
the
WCS Europe, yeah.
That was
Yeah,
one of the
it was one
best
of my favourite-
moments of the
Yeah,
year.
favorite games. It really was just an amazing game. And so when you've got that kind of that knitting of all the different components that make up a great event, of course it's going to work. Of course it's going to be memorable. And IPL nailed that as well. Just like you said, I think they got a bit unlucky with the results, but yeah, it's been a really really amazing year when you look back and you think of all the the different. Yes, I did say "Jag älskar er." Some Swedish that I picked up on the way.
Probably not good, I'm sure.
Exactly.
Actually, John, it means I love you.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Thank
nice.
you.
John, what's your favorite event?
Well, it's tough for me, and you guys know that, because I'm not I like StarCraft a lot. I wish I could.
Right.
Wish I was halfway decent at it. But I was just so busy, and it's not one of those things that I play or really really get into. So I don't. It's not like I sit for a few hours and do it. Although a lot of times I'll put my headphones on and I'll have it playing and I'll check on it every once in a while. For me though, it was the storylines that I would hear coming out of the events, or that I was just happened to be tuning into it at the time, that either kind of piqued my interest. So it's interesting to ask someone like me, because StarCraft, League of Legends, Dota, they're not games that I play, but the international I was really intrigued by. I thought it was really cool. IPL 5 I was really excited. I thought was really neat. I was interested in it a lot because I wanted to see what they were doing, and a lot of what I saw was really good. And then obviously because Violet was doing so well. So, but for me, the DreamHack ones, the DreamHack events, and I can't even say exactly which one it was, but the DreamHack events were really cool because I'm a huge Quake player, and they offered Quake, so it was neat for me, and I just, the energy at the DreamHacks just seems huge.
Did you
just
while
seems
we're on the
pretty
subject
amazing.
of Quake, John? Did you manage to see that Legends tournament at the weekend?
Yeah, I watched a little bit of that. I thought that was
Wasn't it
interesting.
great?
Yeah, it's really good that they're doing it
Yeah.
in a little studio and everything.
Yeah.
I mean,
And they've done all that work on all of the artist versions
Yeah.
of all the players. Well, I thought that was so good. I know it was only a small touch, but it was a really nice touch.
mhm.
And I didn't hear much of the commentating because obviously I was at IEM at the weekend. But we had it
I
up
didn't-
on one of the laptops, and I was just, I was sat there watching Vu versus Cypher, and I was just
Yeah,
thinking,
Vu.
this is
That's
like
when I-
stepping back in time.
That's when I saw Vu was playing. I was like, what? So I had to
Yeah.
check it out, and they, a little studio and everything. I thought it was really good production. In fact, it got me it got me on the Quake admins that I work with,
Yeah.
and I told them we want to start putting together like a North American group play type thing for that.
Yeah,
It was
that'd be great. I mean, I like you, I sat there going, damn, why am I not commentating?
Yeah.
I didn't want to commentate on this guy. I was almost like sitting in the chair. I was like,
Yeah.
what if I just start commentating in my
So
chair?
I thought the DreamHack was good. IPL 5 was good. I did through living through you a little bit. I caught up with the WCS European stuff. Actually, I lived through you for most of the tournaments. Actually,
I updated them all the StarCraft stuff.
I got most of my information and things that were happening. But yeah, that video that I think they just posted in the chat from the international too. That gave me chills, and I know nothing about Dota.
It's like watching a video they play at the end of like the Super Bowl. I mean, maybe even better. You know what I mean? That just sums up like all the
On a
highlights
par, for sure.
and all the parts where like the players are showing emotion and
Yeah.
and oh gosh, so good.
Yeah.
So
It's funny, you know, because some of the stuff the CGS did was similar to that, you know, and doesn't get the credit for it, and that was 5 years ago.
Yeah,
One of the things that they did, was really good was the high levels of production that they brought to stuff. And all right, you might not like the games and what have you, but you know, I nearly lost my voice when Chicago won the first season of the North American final, and went down to the last corner in the PGR, and they played that bit all the time whenever they did like a promo for it. And every time I watched it, I was just like, "That's so good."
Well, Paul, I can say again that looking back now, a lot of the things that that happened, you know, with the Global Gaming League at GGL, the production value that they put into those things was absolutely amazing. It didn't get out as much because we didn't have the streaming capabilities. So there's been a lot of things like that happening, and it's just great to see it happening now, where a lot of people can be a part of it. Yeah,
I
I
think
literally
that's the
got
major
chills.
difference. I think it's a major difference, isn't it, from 5-6 years ago? Is that, you know, there's not one or two companies doing it now. There are 12 or 15 of them doing it, and they're all doing it very well.
Absolutely, and they're competing with each other to do it better and better every time. So
Yeah, definitely.
that's the best part about it.
all right, so we've done best event now. So let's do worst event. Let's stir the pot a little bit and talk about worst here. So
I don't know if I've got a worst.
I have
let me
one,
go
but I
first
don't
then.
even know which one it,
I'll
it
go
technically
first.
was. You'll have to tell me, Chris.
Okay, I'm
but it
gonna
was
go
that
first.
IPL one.
um,
I
well-
tuned
well.
in. I tuned in because in a channel that I'm in, they were talking about it a little bit. I'm like, all right, I got to check this out. So I tuned in, and it's one guy at one 6-foot table with a computer, and then some half computers that looked like they'd been starting to be taken down or something. And it's got the black tablecloth over, and it's all messy, and they folded the tablecloth up because they don't want it on the, you know, a lot of players don't like it having it underneath their pads. And it's just two guys sitting at these two different tables, and then a caster booth. It looked literally like somebody was filming it from their garage, and they put some tablecloths on some tables, and I don't even remember which one that was, but it was IPL
Are you
Vegas.
sure you didn't just go around to a friend's house for a LAN party in a garage?
I'm positive.
Was it at IPL Vegas? It was it was IPL.
It was
Four?
a
No.
little event. It was like a
No, it was one of those standout. It was like a night in Vegas or something.
Yeah.
That night and thing where they had Illusion and those giant ass monitors. Yeah, I know what you're talking
It was
about. Yeah.
absolutely I couldn't believe it. I was like, this is IPL. It was bad.
Well, I mean, to be fair, it was part of another event. It was just kind of.
Yeah,
It wasn't It wasn't really that StarCraft focused. It was a little bit of other stuff. I mean, I thought you were talking about the IPL event where they had the 5-6 hour outage and where they didn't have backup computers and that all that. business.
Yeah.
But it wasn't that one. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't know if do you have a bad one, Chris? Because I'm.
Yeah, I definitely did. Okay, so as much as I love
Go on.
WCS EU, right?
Here he comes.
WCS US sucked my balls. Okay.
Oh no!
They did. Okay, and let me explain you why. And even Sundance admitted it last night on State of the Game. And the reason it did is because it was like, was it the first one? Was it actually the first WCS?
No, yeah, it was actually a very early one. But I,
think
don't think it was the first.
it was maybe one of the first, at least, high-profile ones, right?
Yeah.
And so this is kind of like, you know, this is making the first impression of WCS and what this big Blizzard global tournament is.
Yep.
And so what it ended up being? Well, it ended up being piggybacked on MLG on a side stream. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Going on at the same time as MLG, and those players are playing both tournaments at the same time.
Yeah.
And so it was hard to even watch both, right? So there's just no focus really on the WCS. Not to mention, I think they had the Kespa guys during that one too, like the first show match. So WCS like was like the bottom, like I feel like got the least amount of attention at that event. And then not to mention when Vibe finally won, it was like I remember the interview with him, and it was maybe a minute, maybe 2 minutes. And then it was like, okay, hurry up, get off. It was almost like, hurry up, get off the stage, and then like, let's get the Kespa guys on to have the show match. And oh man, that was by far the. I mean, obviously the event was MLG, but for like a sync kind of like at least that singular part of it, the WCS US, that was the worst for me. By far. Actually.
So the trouble I've got is this, okay?
Oh, can't.
When it comes to really.
Well, sorry, hold on, I lost the audio for a second. Okay.
When it comes to really bad events, this is how I measure bad events now, okay? So I went to an event in 2000, let's say 2006, and it was originally sold as being at Oxford University, which is, it's a very prestigious, one of the two major universities. It's a bit like your Harvard in the US, and I was like, wow, this is going to be awesome. And it was a Code 5 UK finals, okay? And I went along to this event as a spectator, believe it or not. I wasn't actually working there, I was a spectator. And I drove to Oxford University, and it turned out that actually it wasn't at Oxford University, it was at Oxford Brookes College, which is down the road. Okay, so that was the first issue. And I drove to this place. It was only it was like a mile away. And I drove to this place, and it wasn't even in the college, it was in a hut next to the college. Okay?
Like a portable hut?
Yeah, like a
tent?
Like a side thing. No,
Yeah.
not like a tent, but like a side building of some kind that they kind of, went, oh, yeah, you can have that. That's where we keep the trash or something. And I went in, and it was okay inside, but it was literally, like John was saying earlier, a couple of tables and some banners laying around. But the problem was this. There were only 7 people at that event.
What?
Oh
And
my
four
God.
of them were admins.
Wow.
Yeah. So when it comes to, pretty terrible events, I sort of remember that one as being a bit bad. And nothing else really comes close. And then in terms of the ones I've actually worked at, when you're flown to a country, you don't expect to take longer to get to the event than you did to actually fly into the country. And that was a bit of a downer. You also don't expect to get wet whilst commentating. So that was a bit of a downer. And the crowd don't expect to get wet while watching video games. And
was this at the Javits Center in New York?
No, it wasn't. It was at the WCG Italy Grand Finals 2006. So really, nothing came close to being as terrible as those two events this year, I'm glad to say.
Wow. Okay.
Good job, eSports.
Very well said. Very well said, Paul.
Exactly. John, how about you? Oh, you already said the IPL. Okay, all right, that's enough for worst events. All right, best moment, or moment that happened all year, and it doesn't have to be, just moment for you personally, like watching or hosting and that sort of thing. I can say for me, I can let me lead off. I think
go on.
The grubby moment for sure.
Yeah,
at
that's
WCS was, I mean, yeah, there's not much you can say about that. I mean, when you have one of the most loved, I guess, player in our community, having a success, right? Having a pretty good, a very, very good win, a very epic win, and then showing a lot of emotion to the point where obviously he's crying, right? I mean, and that's pretty much gold in every aspect of it. Media, from a fan standpoint, from just everything about esports, right? I felt like that was just so golden, and I was definitely touched by it. And I have to say, even just recently with the whole Colaris at WCS, WCS was it IEM? It was IEM, right? It was IEM Singapore, right? Where Colaris kind of got choked up casting. That kind of was kind of touching too, and it had to do with Grubby again. And I don't know. For me, it's like some people think of it as being unprofessional and that sort of thing. For me, I just like raw emotion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Raw
Yeah,
emotion
no,
about
no,
being
no.
a
Same
fan
thing.
of this game.
Yep.
Of of esports. That
Yeah.
just resonates with me like heavily.
Yeah, I think mine was also from WCS. I think when I look back and I think about it, was the for me it was the announcement at the end. So it's a very personal thing, but it was a mixture of just before we did the final. The guys in my ear, apart from making me say penis live on air to 75,000 people, thanks, sound man, was the fact that just before the last grand final, they said to me, look, there's a lot of guys waiting, we've got a bit of a gap, can you just go out there and just, G them up a little bit? And I was like, well, yeah, I'm okay, I'm not really a natural entertainer, but, I'll go out and have a chat with them and sign some stuff and be fun. And they put the Gangnam Style video on, and I don't think it was shown live on air at the time. Or maybe it was. I don't know. I can't remember.
I think it was.
Was it?
Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
But that was just very spontaneous. We put the Gangnam video up. It was up on the thing. I went down to the end of the penis stage, started doing a bit of Gangnam, and all of a sudden, just floods of people just came from the crowd, and it was it was like a mosh pit around that central stage, and it was so much fun. The guys were just having an absolute blast, and that was not esports related, but it was really fun. And then we went into the grand final, which was an amazing final as well. And then we got to announce the finalist, which was Stefano. He then went down and did Gangnam Style, sprayed champagne. And actually, the only reason it's the moment of the year is because he's the only guy so far this year to actually open a champagne bottle properly.
That's true. Well, he had a lot of practice at NASL.
Well, he's French.
Oh, he's French too. Sure.
He should know.
And and speaking of Gangnam Style in 2012, I remember watching that video when there was only
like 300,000.
Yeah, 300,000 views on that thing.
Exactly.
And now it's like almost at 1 billion views. I mean, that's 2012 right there, man. If esports could only be like Psy, that would be amazing. Okay.
Yeah, it was pretty fun.
Yeah. How about you, John? Best moment?
That's a tough one, I guess, because I worked most of them. But
yeah, it's just a personal best moment.
yeah, I mean, for me, this is going to sound cheesy, I guess, but probably hanging out with you in Austin. Seriously.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, as far as far as esports related, for me, and going to an event, Lone Star 2 was a lot of fun, and there was a lot of things that we had to do, behind the scenes that people didn't know about to make sure that it was going well. I really enjoyed being a part of basically having to completely redo the stage and get it ready in time, and I really enjoyed that part of it. I mean, I kind of really enjoy taking on challenges, but then just being able to at times sit back and relax and enjoy parts of Austin. I think the day I missed my flight because I was an idiot,
Yeah.
and we just had coffee at that place that you took us to with Gun Run and Fish Sticks, and we just sat around and talked to esports. I thought that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, that was definitely. That was obviously the only event I went to too. So it was. That's pretty awesome. That was one of your best moments because that town is, you know how I feel about that town. That town is my favorite. Obviously, one of my favorite
about
towns,
Austin?
if not, yeah.
Yeah.
And people.
Yeah, I
don't
love
even know.
Austin as well.
A lot of
Yeah,
people
it's
just
really-
don't even know. Like, I was telling John, it's like I was at the event and I wish I could have just showed Austin to a lot more players, but obviously everybody's got their little different groups that they're doing something or they're being taken care of by somebody else, right? And I just wish I could have just showed Austin to everybody because they would love that town so much. And
Yeah, no, I was in there 2008 for South by Southwest.
Yeah,
and we did I think we did the CGS draft show from Austin as well. And that
cool.
limited amount of time in there, but what I saw of it was a lovely place.
Yeah,
Well, you went to the right event too, because that's a huge one in Austin.
Yeah,
Like
it is.
huge.
Yeah.
South by. I have so many stories from South by because I lived in Austin for 10 years.
Okay.
And during the weeks of South by, I just live in downtown. Like I'd go to work, immediately get off, at IBM, and I'd get off and go straight to downtown. And it was either music or it was movies. It starts out with movies, and then movie festival, and then the music festival. Actually, before that was the interactive, but back then interactive there was not much. I mean, it was.
Well, I'd see.
tiny.
2008 they had Penny Arcade.
Yeah, Penny Arcade was there.
So it was
too,
really
I
good.
remember that.
And then I'm into alternative rock, mostly American alternative rock.
he was perfect.
So when you go to South by Southwest, you just see the most amazing unsigned bands.
Yep.
And there's 2 or 3 that I'm still into now that have actually since gone and got record deals that I actually saw in '08. So that was really cool.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean they bring in people from everywhere too. There are a bunch of UK
Yeah,
bands,
well,
and Australian bands, and yeah, I mean this is awesome event, guys. You ever get a chance to go to South by or either that or the Austin City Limits Festival in October, which at one point, John, I was trying to get the Rosen Brothers to try to piggyback off that somehow for the Lone Star Clash. That would those are 2 events in Austin. You just have to check it out if you're a music lover. But
I am.
all right, but back to esports. Let's see, what do I got here? I was gonna say worst moment, but is it worth even? All right, let's talk about worst moment. Worst moment. In esports.
I've got one.
Okay, let's go.
And it's esports related this time rather than some sort of random thing. Okay. Worst moment was the banning of the Counter-Strike Go team in the Thor qualifiers, which was just really badly handled all round. And I'm pleased for Thor that they had a good LAN tournament because that obviously negated the fact that went on the qualifiers. But yeah, it's an injustice that hasn't really been talked about too much since. Like everything in esports, we moved on very quickly and it's kind of forgotten and brushed under the carpet.
I actually, Paul,
it raised some serious issues.
We talked about that like 2 days after it happened, and then I haven't thought about it since. So they did finish and have a LAN tournament then, huh?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, happened last week, week before last, and NIP were the winners of the tournament in the end. So it all worked out well for them. But should they have even been in the tournament? I don't know. Nothing against NIP, but it's the admins that they had a fast learning curve. That's all I'll say about it. Is that they,
absolutely.
They had to learn very quickly how this stuff can go to the very, very quickly if you don't get it right, and hopefully they did learn. And as I said, I'm pleased that they had a good LAN tournament, but I don't think we should forget the failings of stuff like that and just not let it happen like that again, because that was terrible. I'll link people in the channel if you're interested in finding out what that was all about. We called it Thorgate at the time.
Thorgate.
It even became a gate.
Gate. Oh man.
Yeah.
What about you, John? Worst moment?
Well, somebody mentioned it, and this was a big deal, just because it got me interested being a like a tournament director or whatnot. Was the League of Legends World Finals with the sun glare, the positioning of the computers, being able to see them on the screen, all that stuff. That was a pretty crappy deal. For me, though, it's probably 2 things. That are even above that, and one is QuakeCon. The event was amazing for me, but I probably put in 60 to 70 hours a week for about 3 weeks prior to QuakeCon, preparing and getting ready for it. And I literally had, and I don't know why I'm even going to admit this on the show, but I literally even had like a breakdown right as we got there on Friday. We got there Thursday, but on Friday, at the start of the event, the lights go out, and at that point I knew that we had a lot of stuff to deliver for people that were, had supported us to be there at that event at QuakeCon, and everything that we had to do. And I just, it was the first time ever, I just had to walk away. My head was spinning. It was crazy. I had never felt like that before. I was overwhelmed, basically. I was exhausted. And but it ended well. I mean, we did everything that we said we were going to do. Looking back on it, we did a lot of things wrong that we could have done better. But that was a pretty trying experience. And then obviously coming home from Lone Star Clash 2 and having a meeting with the 2 other partners at CSN, and then them telling me that that they're going to go more into player management and media, and they basically need my salary to make things happen. So at that point, everything that I put into CSN was no longer, and I was a little nervous right before Christmas. What was I going to do? Find a job, pay bills, get Christmas presents, all that stuff. And so that was a little trying, because it felt like CSN was my baby, so that kind of sucked that was probably the lowest point of the year for me.
Oh, I just realized this overlay. I didn't freaking change your Twitter. Let me change it real quick. Yeah, so we were going to talk about, we're going to have you at least address that to whatever extent you wanted to address it this episode.
Sure.
And since you brought it up, why don't we do that?
Okay.
Why don't you just talk about what you want to talk about? While I
Sure.
This overlay?
So I made some notes on it too, because I don't want this to be this. Definitely, any conversation I have about this is in no way, I don't want it to be a knock on CSN at all. That'd be like, trashing your own kid, because in a lot of ways, even though I wasn't the founder of CSN by any means, I designed the logo, I helped create the website, I brought in a lot of admins and stuff, and so a lot of everything I put into it, it was like, this was going to be awesome. This was we were going to take CSN to different places, and I really think we did. I mean, there was a lot that we did in a very short amount of time. Rachel had a lot to do with that. Andrew worked his tail off with Violet. There were a lot of good things. But I wanted to talk a little bit about, and I'll try to make it brief, I want to talk a little bit about the business side of esports and how sometimes we can let our passion for things get in the way of making smart decisions. And that's been happening to me, honestly, for 10 years. And I'm at that, even 10 years ago, I was older than most people in esports. So you would think I would have known better. But, and I'm not sure, how many others are out there that have gone through this, but you let the passion get in the way of making smart business decisions that ends up costing you. So a little story is that years ago when I was at GGL, which is a global gaming league, which at the time was, I don't know, Paul, would you say they were up there? I mean, they were pretty well known. People knew who they were. They were doing some pretty cool stuff.
I think on an international level, they were probably, they were up there with the likes of ESL and what have you in the day. I mean, their own clan base, so they were dominant in Europe alongside ESL as well. Pretty much had the majority of the US market online sewn up as well. So, yeah, they were huge.
Yeah, and, I mean, they were doing live events. We were at the Javits Center a few times doing some live events there, and
we did, what were the Twin Towers? Not the Twin Towers, but was it the Sony Twin Towers at the top of 46th on the corner
when we did the
Central Park?
Transatlantic Showdown?
Yeah. Was that the Sony Center, or was it?
Or was that the
Sony
Trump?
Ericsson? Yeah, no, it was the Sony Ericsson Center,
Ericsson,
and then the Trump was the other one, yeah.
Yeah. So we did, I mean, and the cool thing is that, we did all these events, and they would fly me out to these events, and I would be so excited about being a part of this new industry, this esports stuff, and everything that I was doing every day that I loved to do. I mean, I started off literally designing my entire website myself for an event, and I was the only admin sometimes running an entire event of 40 teams or something, an entire league. So it was great when a company would come to you and say, we want to pay you for your abilities. We want to pay you to bring you on board and make you a part of this. But I think that the one thing that I've learned over the years, and I've had to be reminded about it, I mean, Chris has reminded me as early as last week about the importance of getting your worth, I guess, regardless of the opportunity. Because there were times that things would jump up, and I'd be all about them. I'd be like, yeah, just pay my meals, get me there, pay for my food.
Yep.
And I think that had, a lot of that was going on in esports. Maybe not for everyone, but it was going on a lot in esports. It still is, and that might be one of the issues with why businesses can't really get to that level of being a real business, because there's too many people willing to do things that they should be getting paid for.
Yeah, well, it's economy of scale, John, isn't it? That's the problem. It's always been like that. You start off by, because esports has such a low threshold of entry, you can start off as a writer but not be a very good writer. You can start off as a caster and not be a very good caster. You can start off as an admin and be a terrible admin. And many people get into esports that way because they want a little bit of e-fame. They want to be recognized for what they can do. Some of them grow and they get better. And then they get into a top-class organization, whether it be a league or a really big team, and they get given responsibility early because it's tough and there's not many people around and they need help. And they do a great job, and then they realize that one of two things happens. Either they realize they're doing a great job and they're actually very good at it, but they're deluded. That's the worst kind of guy. Or they actually are very good at it. And either way, the result is the same. I now want to be paid to do this more often. And you're going to have to pay me to keep me. And, that...
And that's the thing,
they
Paul,
still
I didn't
do
even
it.
think that way.
No. And I'm not saying everyone does, John, but I'm just saying that's a generalization of how it works in esports why it's so low level. The problem is that if a guy 5 years ago says to DreamHack, I can come and commentate for free, do you think they're going to pay me 200 quid to go and commentate there? They aren't, because they're going to go, well, I've got this guy, he wants to do it for free. So you either want to come and do my tournament for me, or you don't. Which one is it? Do you want to be paid, or do you want to do it for free? And of course, most of the time we said, well, okay, pay me for lights then, and I'll come out and do it. And I'm not picking on DreamHack. That would be anyone. I did several QuakeCons on my own dime. I actually flew myself out to QuakeCon. I think many other people did too. And from the UK, it's pretty expensive. In the middle of the school holidays in August, I did it several times, and you had to back then, but you didn't. We were just forced to think you did, because there were plenty of other people where I came from that would do exactly what I wanted to do as well.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, that's how a lot of people have been stung.
That's how a lot of people have been stung. But then there's the people that have actually gotten to the point where they've been paid. I mean, we know the stories. And my story at GGL was that, and I don't know if it was the same for you because I obviously didn't know everything that was going on, but I worked there, I was getting paid, and I was really enjoying it, and I wasn't getting paid a lot by any means. But I was getting paid enough that I felt that they had valued my worth. And this story is not about them, just deciding that I wasn't worth it or anything like this. This story is about a business model that wasn't working, and instead of treating it as a business at that point, what they started to do is they told us, well, we're going to take 20% of your pay. We'll give it back. We're going to take 20% of your pay. So then my checks were 20% less. And then it was 50% less. Then literally, without telling anyone, they just stopped paying us. And this was at least for me and some of the admins, some of the other admins, the tournament director and supervisors, and they just stopped paying us. But they kept us, they kept us working. They asked us to keep working. Oh, don't worry, we're going to pay. Don't worry, we're going to pay. And then one day, poof, it was just all gone. And almost $20,000 in back pay, was owed, and there's there's nothing that I can do about it. That's obviously not anywhere near the experience that I've had since then, especially at CSN. But bringing up CSN, one of the things that people see the things that CSN were doing, and I got this a lot, was like, well, you guys must be making a lot of money. Well, CSN must have a lot of money because they were doing a lot of good things. I mean, it'd be like looking at NASL today compared to what they were doing their first year. People their first year said, well, they probably didn't have a lot of money to do all this stuff. Well, they're probably doing very similar things with their budget that they were doing then, but they're just doing a lot better. So people think, oh, geez, they must have a lot of money, and that just isn't the case, because they probably don't. They're working on a budget like any other business. CSN was on a budget, and I wish that we would have had a budget to be able to pay admins and things like that, but we just didn't, and I was one of the few people that were paid. One reason I bring all this up is that one of the things that's concerning about esports and people that are getting into it is that you want to make sure that the business that you're getting yourself into, the business that you're looking to get paid for, is acting as a business. I didn't sign an NDA when I was at National ESL for a year. That part baffled me. How did I not sign an NDA at ESL?
NDAs are worth shit anyway, John. You know that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the. I mean, it's
I know, but
good for you that you didn't sign it.
Yeah, no, it is, and honestly, you're right. I mean, like a non-compete, I just laughed at
Non-compete
those when I signed them, because you can't tell me my livelihood. I can't continue to do my livelihood.
Yeah, and they're unenforceable by law anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's things like that. I mean, I think one of the issues in esports is just one issue, but is that businesses need to start treating the entire industry as a business, and as they're a part of that business. And when they're reaching out to graphic designers, I mean, I happen to also be a graphic designer, and you can't imagine the countless number of graphics that I've made for websites and teams and banners and things, just over and over, and never been paid a dime for them. You know, several times told I was going to get paid and never got paid. So I think the real story here is that, for me at least, I was a victim of my own passion. I let my passion get in the way. It got in the way at CSN at times. I put a lot more money and time. I was, just to let everyone know, I was getting paid about $4 an hour. It's embarrassing. When you do the math, the number of hours that I put in compared to how much I was making, it was like $3.60 an hour. It's embarrassing, and I'm only admitting that because this show is, we try very hard not to have fluff on it, and there's no reason for me to lie about that. So it is embarrassing, but I'm a victim of my own passion, and I think so. Now that I'm no longer with CSN, and I have to go out and find something else, and I have to keep those things in check, you know, and you've talked to me about this before, Chris. You know, I have to understand when I have to know that when I'm approaching somebody, that there is worth in the things that I do, and there's value in it, and somebody needs to pay me for it. And there's a lot of people probably in this chat right now that have gone through the same thing. They've offered up their services, and that's a way you get started. I mean, as you alluded to, Paul, that's how people get started.
Yeah.
But I think at one point we're going to have to all start understanding that there is value in what people are doing, and businesses need to start treating it as a business, and people like myself need to start thinking of it as an actual a career option, and look at it as any other real job.
But that's the issue. I mean, I stand on the cusp of something that, you know, I've taken a considerable gamble this year in that I've been doing this part-time this year. I've already done it full-time for 2 years previously, and a year before that previously as well, and they both failed. Once bitten, twice shy, 3 times. Why, you a mug?
Yeah.
You know, and I'm about to embark on my 3rd time of trying to go in full-time esports, and I do it with my eyes open. I'm not blinkered, but it is and I don't mean any disrespect to ESL, but it's a massive gamble for me. I'm 41. I have a big career right now in social media and digital marketing, which I've been doing for a long time, working for a fantastic top 5 digital agency in the UK. They pay me tremendously well, and I get to do a job that I absolutely adore, run an entire department the way I want to run it. They're very, leave me to it, be guided by them. I'm an instrumental person within the company, so, I'm well respected and liked, and that, for me, is a career. And I've given that up for the opportunity to go to Germany and work with a league and a TV broadcaster. It's my passion. I've made, if you want to be blunt about it, if I want to be blunt about it, I've made an emotive decision on a career, and you've just said don't do that. So I'm not going to disagree with you, but what I am going to say is that just sometimes you have to let the heart rule the head.
And I did that.
Well,
I did that.
And I know, and you've been
I mean,
stung, and I've done exactly the same thing, John. So I'm not criticising you. I've done it twice before, been stung both times, and become very bitter about it. But at some point, you get over it, and you get back into it, and you get back on the horse, and you start riding again. You realise how much you love it, and then an opportunity comes along that you just can't say no to, and that's where I'm at right now. I'm not saying that in a year from now I'm not going to be back on the breadline and looking for a new job. I don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah,
and I still don't know whether this is really a long-term career. That was my key point of this. I'm not sure we've found esports a sustainable business enough yet to call it a career for anyone.
Right,
Yeah.
and maybe, and somebody mentioned this, and maybe the better question is how can we find ways in which to create more revenue within esports,
Yes.
so that businesses can thrive, they can be businesses.
Yeah, well, so let me give you my perspective, since I'm like more of a third person view of this, because I'm not kind of so deep into it like you guys are, at least from a career standpoint. This still is kind of definitely more like on the scale. It's definitely more hobby than it is career for me. Obviously, because I'm making no money from this, right? It's just like it's always been more of a just generous kind of thing for me, just giving to the community. So from my standpoint, looking at the business of esports and just folks that are trying to get in, trying to enter in esports, doing stuff for free, and then getting to the point where they're wanting to get paid and that sort of thing. I feel like the issue is like from both sides. It's from the business, from the actual organization that actually, that the people are working for. These people are volunteering or not getting paid much are working for, and it's from in the mindset of the person that's volunteering and doing that sort of thing. And for me, it's like from a volunteer standpoint, there's nothing wrong with working for free, trying to get your foot in the door, trying to do that sort of thing. But once you have kind of established, I feel like, some value to the organization, meaning like you're not easily replaceable. If you are replaceable, then you are not, you don't deserve necessarily to be paid, right? But if you get to the point where you do deserve, like you are somebody that can't quite be replaced or they'd have to take a step down, then I feel like at that point you should recognize that, hey, I shouldn't be doing this for free. Like, I mean, and I think a lot of people
I think that's the problem, though, Chris. Is that esports is a young industry and it's run by young people, and it has a lot more younger people trying to get into it at the other end. And this isn't a criticism of those people, but it's the majority of those people. I know me at 17, 18 was not commercially savvy, and I don't expect anyone else to be commercially savvy by the time they're 18 either. But the trouble is, it's those same 18-year-olds, if you like, who are trying to break into esports, who will get to a point, wherever it might be, a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever down the line, and believe that they should be paid for what they're doing. But they're so uncommercially orientated that actually they don't understand what value they bring, and even whether they bring any value at all. They just see, well, I'm doing this and I've been doing it a long time and the crowd like me, therefore I should be paid. And it's unfortunately, it's not as simplistic as that. It's commercially, esports is very tricky commercially, as John will no doubt verify. And it takes a lot more than just, you're right, you need to work out what value you bring. But I don't know if that's very difficult for some people to do that. I think having a commercial brain and having a creative brain at the same time is unusual. And that makes it hard.
And my only point, like with saying that, I absolutely agree with you, Paul. The only reason I'm saying that is that I think, as folks that are trying to get into this, to the sport, whether you're young or you're not, you need to educate yourself on even just this kind of principle, because what ends up happening a lot of times is you just get taken advantage of.
Yeah, I mean, that's the key, right? Isn't it? When do you get to the point where you go, this is the tricky bit, because someone actually made a really good point that doing the free stuff is a bit like an internship. Well, it sort of is, and I've pulled in interns before to work for me commercially, in a commercial environment. I can tell you this, they only do it for one reason, and that's experience, because the hardest thing for them to get the job that they want is that to get the job they want, they need experience in it. So it's the chicken and egg routine. Sure. So internship is a way around that by gaining the experience you need. It's no different in esports, but the problem is that middle area, there is no sort of process, if you like. There's no organisational flowchart that says, if intern equals free work for a week, we consider them the next time a job comes around, because that's how it works in the real world. I've recently just interviewed a lady we had in as an intern for a week a couple of months back, and great, she's come back, I already know her, there's a familiarity about her, I know what she can do, I'm more likely therefore employer. So that's how an internship works. It doesn't work like that in esports, because people unfortunately are more scrupulous. They will try and take advantage of free talent more often than not.
Yeah, and that's
but they take advantage of paid talent too, Paul, and that was one of my points too.
Yeah, and that's no different either.
Yeah, we were, CSN was basically a two-man show, or three-man as far as the business side of things. And, although I wanted to come in thinking, everything was going to be kosher, they'd have accounts receivable and accounts payable all set up, and, I'd get my monthly check every month. And, there was always going to be little issues. Basically CSN was a startup company, and Andrew was handling most everything while also going to school at the same time. So you can expect that there would be some problems. It's sort of the things, though, that happen later on down the road that kind of really make you step back and go, what was I doing? because I was getting used, or I, at GGL, what made me think that it would be okay for me to continue working for about 8 months for free after I'd been
well, I
paid?
think there's an element of trust there as well. I mean,
Yeah.
people, I had a lot of respect for the guys at the top end of GGL, and Fred Ordauer, for instance, is I think Marcus rates him as probably one of the most influential people in his career. He wasn't quite as influential for me, but I respected the hell out of the guy for what he'd already done. And every time he said to me, "Don't worry, I'll make sure you get paid," I believed him. And I
believed him too, because he was a great. I agree. He was one of the few people at the top management that I could believe. And it was his demeanor or who he was. But you're right. I trusted that as well.
See, that's kind of the other side of things I was talking about. There's like two sides to it, right? And as a business, as an organization, I mean, are you really? I think a lot of the problem is that some of these businesses are kind of running as if these volunteers are actually their employees.
Yes, they are. Absolutely, they are. No doubt about it whatsoever. No, it's not right.
It's not right.
But, again, comes back to chicken and egg. You don't get a professional organisation unless you run it like a professional organisation. So what you do is you put process and organisation in place that allows you to have hierarchy and HR problems and contracts and NDAs and what have you. And then that's slightly resented because there's no monetary payback for that. But to get to monetary payback, that business needs to earn money, and without the process and the organisation, it isn't going to earn any
but
money.
You can scale that. People are scaling like way too fast.
I know.
mean,
But the thing is, I think we have moved on, and I know that John's situation is very sad, and it's it's a modern day problem, but it's also, I think, generally speaking, it's getting better.
Yeah, it is getting better.
And I think a lot of the organisations now are hiring not just people and doing it properly, but hiring the right people now. I think in the past, a lot of hires at a lot of big organisations, particularly leagues across the world, have been very poor, and they've been based on friendships. Or they've been based on, I think this guy had one good tournament and the crowd loved him, or Reddit loved him, or someone loved him. Yeah, let's hire that person then. And then it didn't quite work out. I think
there's still some of that going on though, but it's much better.
Absolutely, and there always will be. That's just real life. I mean, I've made some awful mistakes on hires before, but in the interview, the person looked awesome. So, and that's all you can do. You can hire them. And slowly but surely, I think leagues are learning, and they're spending less money where they should spend less money, and they're spending more money on things that they should spend more money on. And it's just working it out. This is a really young business still. I mean, I think we have to put that into perspective and not criticise leagues and teams and managers. They're still finding their way as well. There is no kind of magic bullet business model that exists for esports yet, and there may not be. There may not ever be. Yeah. But we're certainly starting to see more process, more organisation, more structure, and that's a good thing, because that's where business is founded on. All very good businesses are founded on those three things, and I'm starting to see that in a lot of organisations, teams as well, which is great.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree with all those things, Paul. And the only reason I think bringing this up, and obviously John, it's like, I think everybody probably appreciates your honesty and everything about just your situation there. I mean, the one thing I think to learn from all this is really just, as much as esports is all about heart and passion, just make sure you're clear on like what focus and direction that you're trying to get to. You know what I mean? Like, so that you don't completely just waste your time. Like, time is so important. Like, time is the most valuable thing for me. And, one of the things I learned along the way, just all those, just years of probably wasting time, is that, I wish I always knew exactly what was the priority. Stuff like I love with my heart, but I know in my mind this is where I'm trying to get, and these are the steps, and this is what I do every day. Whether it's like something I love, like passionate love, no matter what, or it's something that I'm just like grinding just to get there. You know what I mean? And that's the only reason I bring it up is that I just want folks to just have that clear.
I think it's a really interesting debate. There's one more I'd like to throw in, which was from Zeno, who's sent me a tweet on this because he somehow got deleted in the channel, but he's I don't know how, I don't do it, not guilty, and he's linked to a post which I have read actually before from Kika, and he was saying that one of the things he wanted to see at the Valencia Esports Congress was people talking about the fact that we're very much a free orientated industry, and we really are. He's absolutely spot on that. We're very much of the culture that we can download TV shows when we want. We're very much of the fact that we can have music wherever we want and it should be free or pirated. And we're very much big on downloading movies that we shouldn't download. But that's just how we are. It's kind of the scene's grown like that. And unfortunately, those same people expect esports to be free too. And I would agree with him on that. He makes a point that we will never grow this industry unless we get people to pay admission to esports events and pay for HD, TV streaming. Well, hello, wake up, because that's been happening for the last year. And specifically in the last 3 months, I've seen extraordinary money taken through the gates. We had 3,500 people through the door at the Ericsson Globe. They all paid to get in. There were 2,000 2 or 3 weekends ago at DreamHack Winter in the ice hockey arena to watch 3 StarCraft matches. They all paid to get in. MLG have run, numerous events where they've been paying to get in. And NASL has, well, IPL too. So I don't think that's necessarily... You're right, that's absolutely the model we need. Otherwise, no one's ever going to pay for it from the ground up. It's just going to have to come from sponsors. And that's unsustainable. We've already found that out.
Yeah.
But it is starting to happen. It is starting to happen. And I do agree with him, but I think it's a bit blind to say that hasn't started yet, because it has.
Right. Well, okay. Well, I mean, I again, John, if you want anything else you want to, comment about it, like, feel free to. Otherwise, we'll probably continue on our best and worst of.
No, I'm all right. It's good.
All right, let's go to, how about breakout player of the year? Just, it could be somebody who's like made a name out of nowhere, or it could just be somebody who was a name but just kind of elevated themselves. You think of anybody in any of the sports?
I can
figure loads of people, but
I know, right?
Yeah.
For me, and it's somebody that people started to see that he was good, but sort of, from Western Wolves.
Sort of.
Oh, really?
Okay.
The Swede?
Yeah.
Even though everybody keeps calling him a patch Zerg, even though
I started to follow, and I started to see the community's reaction to him and everything, and then all of a sudden you don't hear from him much anymore, or you don't hear a lot about him anymore, because at that point he's accepted. Because at that point he's not the new thing anymore.
Yeah. I would say Scala in North America surely would be a breakout player for the year. I'd say Baby Knight in Europe maybe for StarCraft, but yes. I think if you're talking about breakout, then you've got to look at Counter-Strike Go and go, well, who else is there but Ninjas in Pajamas? They played 6 LAN tournaments, they won all 6. Is that a breakout? It's a new game.
Yeah, that's a.
Well,
they've won all 6 LAN tournaments they've played in.
Yeah, no, and not lost a map yet either.
That's what that is, man.
They haven't lost a map. They might lose the game. They haven't lost a map.
Players on the team?
Well, they've got two or three old school. They've got Get Right, of course. They've got Forest, so they're pretty big in terms. But they've also mixed that up with a couple of players from CS Source as well. They've got Fifth Lauren in there. They've got Exist in there as well. So, it's a great team. But there are other teams who have done the same thing, or even brought full teams over from. The Golden Fire from ESC are still together and are playing together. They haven't been able to beat them. The guys from Very Games, they've also come over and they haven't been able to beat them either, and they were dominant for like 3 or 4 years in Counter-Strike Source. So, yeah, I think that's pretty impressive as far as Team FPS goes. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, breakout player for me, Scarlet for sure. I mean, it's funny because the breakout players are always kind of like my favorite players. So, Scarlet, I think everybody knows, is my favorite player, and she's literally the kind of. I don't want to say Cinderella story, just we're literally coming out of nowhere. Like, only the ladder warriors knew who she was. And she literally comes out of nowhere and beats Koreans, like, at IPL 4, right? 4?
But wasn't that pretty much the same with Baby Knight as well? He was known for being pretty strong online, and then, boom, comes to a big tournament and starts,
Well, Baby was, I think, a little bit more gradual. It was, too. Yeah, but I think it was a little bit more gradual. He was having some online success, like on online tournaments and stuff like that. I don't think Scarlet was basically hiding from everybody. Yeah, she was hiding until she played for that what was it? It was that tournament where they would pay for your trip to IPL, whatever that, I forget what it was. It was a Playhem maybe. Playhem's kind of I don't know. The chat might know, but it was basically a tournament that would pay for her trip to IPL, and that's kind of how it got all started. She beat Revival and I think everybody in that, or whoever in that tournament, and then got there, and then obviously made a splash. Yeah. But Baby and I was a little bit more gradual. I think he was doing.
No, you're right.
Yeah. But Baby, I mean, he's awesome. He's right up there too. I think Suppy too. I think Suppy, I think a lot of folks, even like, I didn't even realize it, that he was kind of, like known as kind of an up and comer, but hadn't had any results, and then boom, all of a sudden he just starts producing, right? And then, got nabbed up by EG, shortly after. So,
Yep.
Yeah, so I think those two were the biggest ones for me. I can't even think of Koreans really that had a breakout.
I was just
Consistently. It's
just listening to what we were just saying. I don't know why this just came across to me, but we didn't mention one of the things that was, and I'm going backwards, but one of the worst times of 2012 or whatever is we didn't mention the loss of Quantic and Check Six and just
It's true.
Yep.
some of those teams.
There were quite a few teams this year as well. It wasn't just those two. There was quite a
Yeah,
few.
no, it definitely wasn't just those two. There was quite a few. There was another one just recently.
Well, I think if we'd had Mark on the show, we'd have probably covered that. But
I was kind of saving it, but now,
Yeah.
I don't think Mark's going to be on. So yeah, Quan. I think it's.
I mean, we don't have to
Check
bring it
Six.
up, but I just
Yeah.
was it was
I think
interesting
we
that we
do.
were mentioning
No,
that.
we should.
Right, John.
We
I think
should.
we
It's-
should do. Yeah, I
let's
think we
talk
should.
it.
And
It's
the
Slayer,
thing is
yeah.
that it's for me, it's about. And I don't want to criticize Mark directly for this because I don't know the full story, but that's why I wanted him to come on and talk about it. But it's about a mixture of things. It's about why would you use, and I've asked Mark this as well, why would you use investment money to start a team up when there is no profit margin, when there is no way of making that money back within 10 years? Likewise, why would the investor pull investment after only a few years when the long term is quite good, but actually they've got no chance of making any money in the first 10 years? I mean, wake up, open your eyes. It's obvious you're not going to make any money for 10 years.
And I can't say for sure, obviously, because Mark's not here, but my understanding was that the investors really were in this to have fun. This was their way of blowing off steam.
Fantastic. But let's see some commitment for the long term. That's not.
Yeah.
Let's not just switch it off like a tap. I mean, you can't do that. That's people's livelihoods. It's people's careers. And I find that lack of respect for that is demoralising in many ways. I'm sure, I'm not criticising the people behind it. I'm just saying that you need to be more realistic with your eyes open if you're going to come in as an investment with VC money and try and run a team on that basis.
And I think you're saying that more in a general
sustainable.
sense too, Paul.
I'm
everyone.
saying it about Quantic. I'm just saying it across the board. It's happened to 3 or 4 teams this year where it's happened, and they've had a fold on the basis of that. And it's the same with teams that rely singly on sponsors as well. They're just as vulnerable. I mean, you look at EG's roster of sponsors, and they've taken them a while to lose all of them. Same with Dignitas, and they're 2 of the most sponsored teams in the world right now. But it's a dangerous line. I mean, I'm sure Alex and Michael from those 2 teams will tell you that their teams live and die on the fact that whether they secure a sponsorship term for another year.
Yeah, I mean, they're pushing it to the
that's
limit.
not healthy either.
Yeah, they're
it's
reinvesting
not.
whatever money they're making.
Yeah, absolutely they are. Yeah, but they're not out there making a profit. And we're back to what we talked about earlier about how much money do we making out of this? And well, I don't think anyone in esports is making a buck. They're not. And if they are, they're just barely surviving. And no leagues and no teams are making massive amounts of money and getting rich off this. Despite the fact that Mr. Garfield appeared in the Forbes 30 under 30 yesterday. That's nothing to do with money, by the way.
Exactly.
Someone got very confused with that yesterday. But like, oh my God, is he a millionaire? No, that's the wrong list. That's the rich list. Oh my God.
Well, Twitch is doing all right, though, I bet.
Yeah, but see, they offer Twitch is doing well. They offer
VC money as well.
Yeah.
Was that 15 million put in recently?
I know. But at least they have, at least they have regular revenue flow. But yeah. So the team, I'm torn on the teams. I mean, Mark, I think there's more story than everybody knows, and I'm not sure Mark will even tell. But I think there's more story to it with investors and that sort of thing. That it's. But hopefully we'll hear one day from him. He'll pop on. But in general, teams, I've never been sold on the team model. And Mark's always talked about like all these cautionary tales are all just the hardships he's going through just with where he was, from the standpoint of team. And we're starting to see it more and more every day, except from EG. EG is like the only beacon of success, I feel like, and especially North American.
Well, Chris, let me jump in there. Chris, it's success.
I think there's a lot in Europe.
It's what we
Europe.
know.
There's a bunch in Europe, but it's just,
Chris, it's really what we know. One thing that EG is very, very good at, there's no doubting, is that they're very good at marketing. and promoting.
They're
and
a
their
marketing
PR
firm.
is very good.
They're
So
a
they could be
marketing firm,
having
that's why.
serious problems and we wouldn't know about it.
No, they are, but because they're such good at marketing, they are drawing in the sponsors, and
Correct.
they're locking in the sponsors. So the sponsors aren't, you know what I mean? They're not going to other teams, you know. So
Right.
But the thing is for me, like, you know, Mark's obviously educated all of our viewers and everybody on just how much it costs to send all these players to events and lodge them and pay for all this crap that management teams shouldn't pay for. You know what I mean? Like, the teams in a way for me are just kind of like this kind of necessary evil that we have to go through in the beginning of this, because our industry is just in such an infantile state. Because the players are, like you said before, Paul, they're just not business savvy at all. So they don't even know how to deal with sponsors directly. You know what I mean?
No, and I think, do you know what my honest opinion about this is? That the teams need to be careful. I speak to a lot of them, and the common theme recently has been that they believe that they're not getting a fair share of the money from the tournaments that the tournaments are making. Well, you know, first of all, the tournaments aren't making money, so that's the first problem. If they were making money, then I would absolutely agree that the teams need to share in that profit. It's their IP out there. It's the players and the teams that make these tournaments what they are and make us tune in and go to and view them. So they should absolutely take part of that. It's no different to any other sport, and I hate bringing sports analogies up when I'm talking about this, but it's
Sure.
it's the only way you can compare it, and that is there are other sports that benefit from the fact that the sport becomes big because everyone benefits from it. I totally get that, but there isn't the money there yet. So let's park that one for now. So how else can those leagues help those players and those teams? Well, they can help them with travel. Yep, stipends, that can help.
Absolutely.
No problem with that whatsoever. And I don't think many of the leagues have got issues with that. I think there's a lot of leagues paid out a lot of money this year for travel to get players to those events. But if you compare it to tennis, which is an often used analogy, well, okay, how many teams do you see in fucking tennis?
There's zero. I mean, there's zero.
Absolutely, there's no teams. Hello. Well, the reason there's no teams is because there's fucking agents everywhere, and they run everything, and they put it through all the leagues, and they get them off to these things. So when you look at the team, you know, the team structure as it is right now, maybe in 10 years from now we don't have teams. Maybe the players are just running
that's
things
what I'm talking about.
down with agents.
Let's talk about the tennis and agent thing. The players pay the agent for a service. The sponsors pay the players directly.
Yep.
That's
So
how it is.
a lot, going back again to Violet, Violet is a perfect example of what can be done. If there are people listening in this chat right now, you could do this very same thing. Take on a player. Be willing to be that player's manager and do everything you can to promote and help that player grow. And you may end up benefiting from it as well, but you're going to be putting 100% of your effort into that one player. The problem I have with the team model is that how in the world can you foster growth or cultivate growth in a team model of with a game that's all about an individual skill?
Well, the only way you could is if something like Pro League became global. You know, just something that was just the model for our competitions. If that's what ended up happening, then sure, we'd go to a team model, which would make sense, and you know, there'd be a team. You know, it'd be clear as to what the competitions were, and we would, you know, the team would be a necessity in my eyes. But right now, it's not. Most of the tournaments are not team tournaments. They're all individual based.
Yeah, well, we're talking about StarCraft, majority, but the League of Legends ones are, of course, and so the CS:GO ones. So I'm being flippant about things, but I'm doing it on purpose just to make a point. I'm trying to play devil's advocate in trying to make people stop doing the sports analogy thing because it's not healthy. Yes, we can look to sports for inspiration and guidance, but we can't use any other sport because there is no other sport out there that is exactly the same as what we've got with esports. It's just too different that we need to find a model that works, whether that's with the teams, whether it's without the teams, whether it's with player agents. I don't know. I don't have the answer. We'll just see where it goes over the next few years, and we'll have a clearer idea.
Yeah.
But I think it's just dangerous ground to say, you know, teams are going to boycott this and that and the other if they don't get their own way. Well, that's like a 5-year-old or a 2-year-old throwing its toys out of the pram. That can't work, and that shouldn't be a healthy thing that the teams are thinking about. Likewise, the leagues can't hold the teams to ransom because they've got the players they need to play in those tournaments, and they're not just going to get those new players. They're going to suddenly become heroes overnight. So from my mind, they need each other, and that's where we're at right now. So they should be working together on making sure that we get the best compromise we can possibly get. The teams aren't going to get the best deal that they want, and the league aren't going to get the best deal that they want, but somewhere in the middle is some good common ground where everyone benefits, and put us in a position that, a few years from now, hopefully everyone's making good money, and that money can start being shared amongst everyone that puts the effort into making these tournaments what they are, which includes the teams and the players.
Right. We'll see we'll see in this 2013 if the teams will create a coalition, which is kind of.
I agree with what Paul's saying a lot, and I think that the teams will end up benefiting a lot from the collaboration that the leagues are putting in place, and it doesn't have to be directly. The leagues don't have to directly come out and say, and I hate calling it leagues, but let's say the event organizers don't have to come out and say, we're going to, give you stipend for travel. They don't have to change anything they're doing except collaborating, creating a circuit, making it more organized. I think the more we get to a structure in place that really builds esports, the better off the teams are going to be. They're going to find new ways of making revenue, and they're going to benefit from the growth of esports.
But I would normally agree with you, John, but given the, kind of like the size of the total pot right now and how much travel costs, there's just no way the teams can make money, unless they get ginormous sponsorships. I mean, it costs so much money to send these guys. And, Paul's talking about, this calendar that's full of events. I mean, you have to send these players across the world. And if you don't send them across the world, then you're only sending them to a few events, which is even less exposure for your, you're talking about team brand, for your brand, for your sponsors, and then that equivocates into less sponsors. So it's a crazy
Max Reiger
equation.
has the ultimate answer to all of our problems. Invent the teleporter machine.
That would be
Problem
awesome.
solved.
That would be awesome.
I'm with this guy. He makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. Max Reicher's saving esports, man.
Hey, somebody just made another good point, too, and somebody said this earlier to me. Why does it have to be about LAN tournaments? It doesn't. It doesn't have to be about LAN tournaments.
Absolutely doesn't.
It doesn't have to, but there is a mystique to LAN tournaments.
There's so many other things that you can do online.
Absolutely. On a national scale and on a sort of omni-local scale, yes, online makes a lot of sense. The reason that we do LAN tournaments is to try and bring all of the players that play in different segments of the world together. So I totally agree. For some games as well, don't forget, if you're StarCraft, you're spoiled because the netcode's fantastic and you can play international and you can play, all over Europe and all over North America, and it doesn't really matter too much. When you play a first-person shooter like Counter-Strike, ping matters a massive amount, and you can't play North America to Europe. You can't play Korea to Europe. You can't play Korea to North Korea even. Well, you could never probably do that, but anyway. Let's move swiftly on before I sort of get shot by someone. Bottom line is that it's much harder to do that internationally. Yeah. So LAN tournaments used to be the premise that actually we'd bring everyone together in the same place. So I agree. I think online has its place, and it has a part to play in bringing events as well. I've seen some fantastic online events in the last few months. So, yeah.
Online events are great. I mean, there's not enough of them, especially. I mean, there's a bunch in Europe at this point. There's not enough of them in NA. I mean, Playham's gone now. I mean, what do we have? I mean, we have a bunch of one-offs, maybe, show matches here and there, and that sort of thing. But all the players are playing in European, onlines and that sort of thing. So, I mean, one thing that we could do, even from a LAN standpoint, is really localization. Like just have more, more localized kind of tournaments. More CSL-like things, more, what I mean? Like even Sundance was talking about stuff like this last night, and I was just like, finally, people are freaking talking about just like.
If we go back to our horrible sports analogies again, something I always agree with John on is that we need a grassroots organisation as well. So you have your top level pros, great, but how do they get there? And they get there through grassroots. Well, grassroots originally is online in our bedrooms. That's where grassroots is. It's effectively in football terms, it's Sunday league football. When I go over and play with my friends over the park, it's that kind of grassroots. And then I find, actually, I can play this in an organised league, but it's quite low level and it's very local. Brilliant, I'll do that. Well, there's a whole 16-tier ladder to go through football. If you want to go from Sunday league footballer all the way up to the top Premier League, there's a ladder that you can literally go through. It's like, it's not bronze, silver and gold, but it's like that. And we're starting to see those things being put into games now as well. I mean, StarCraft has led the way. League of Legends is also there. Even in Counter-Strike now, there are levels. There are 18 levels in Counter-Strike. It's the first time I've ever known levels to be in there. And that's great. because you suddenly online have got a way of going through a ladder system which actually rates you, and you can figure out where you fit into the whole scheme of thing, and actually puts you against other people with similar skill. So you can figure out what is the next level. Where do I go next? What tournament do I play in that makes me noticed and gets me hired and gets me to one of those big LAN tournaments? It's starting to come together.
Yeah.
I mean, they want it. You know, players coming. I was talking to a team manager last night from a small team, and he even said the same thing. Is I tell the guys that we bring on board, we're not. There's no way we're going to pay you to. We can't pay to send you to MLGs, because they always ask, okay, so if I'm a part of your team, can I go to an MLG event? Well, why? Why would you? You won't finish in the top 32.
Yeah.
Exactly. There's so many other things that you can do.
Oh Jesus, Max, we need Cal back. Yeah, you're not wrong.
We do need Cal back. I'm working on it, Paul. I'm working on it.
Where is he when you need him?
He's probably listening.
I mean, in the end, we don't need the best players to make a good product. Like, we don't need it. We can make successful events with just, I mean, in a way, just notable players.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just
you know how they like. Sorry to down the interesting conversation, because it has been, by the way. But you know how like they got drunk on State of the Game.
Yeah.
Well, I've got like a chocolate fetish at the moment. So look at this.
Oh my god!
Oh, shit, I've lost one.
That's like incoming.
But they're all stuck together. Right.
Hey,
how old is this chocolate?
If I have a chocolate,
how old is this chocolate?
Chris, I think Paul tried to break it up. I think we should go to questions now. Otherwise, we could keep going on and on about that for sure.
Seriously. Actually, I haven't got a pro corner tonight too. Oh man. All right, let's take some questions, guys. Go ahead and add me on Skype. My Skype ID is ChanmanV, and I will pull you into the call. And
these are good.
You can ask us any questions you want about anything. 2012, 2013, whatever you want to ask. We will answer. All right, see, Mike. Best new eSports game. Okay.
Oh, my word.
You can ask in stream chat too, guys. If you don't have Skype, you can.
Yeah, or Twitter. We don't mind.
Okay, or Twitter.
We don't mind where you insult us. It's absolutely fine.
Or Twitter, or another thing, guys. Join our Google Plus community, our StarCraft 2 community discussion group. Paul created.
And thank you to everyone that's already joined. There's about 2,000 of you in there. It's amazing.
Yeah, there's 2,000 people already in the community, and
biggest
trying to build it.
Gaming Google Plus community already out there. Bigger than LoL, bigger than Dota, bigger than those CS people.
The CS people.
And you can message me on Twitter, and I'll help you get on the Facebook eSports group.
Oh yeah, there's a Facebook.
That's got 300 members
on
it.
These. Sorry, I gotta fix these. You boss, longtime viewer. He's good guy. You boss, what's up, man?
Hey, man. Hey, Chan. Hey, guys.
Hey, how's it
going? How you doing?
Thanks for calling in.
Yeah, thank you for taking my call. First of all, I'd like to wish you all a Happy New Year, because I'm not going to be tuning in. I'll be traveling, so
and
just saying that.
And everyone that's tuned in as well.
Yeah. Well, my question. Seeing the developments of both all esports titles like StarCraft and Dota, League of Legends, and whatever else, just like from your personal opinion, which you think will we see the same progress of the current esports titles, or do you think that there is a title that will definitely have its rise during this year compared to just personal opinions about this? That's it.
Ooh.
So is the sorry? So just so I'm clear.
So
is the question: will there be another big title launched next year that will be as successful as, say, League of Legends and Dota and StarCraft?
Well, you can add that too, but for me, it's like, for example, now basically the main events, they put StarCraft 2 as their title for the event, like the main event, right?
Okay.
Like, do you think will that change during next year, or?
No. I think what you'll see is a proliferation of events. In other words, we'll see more events that use multiple games, and you'll see, on a bill where there will be some League of Legends, and there'll be some World of Warcraft, and there'll be StarCraft 2, and there'll be some Counter-Strike, and what have you. And what I think you'll see is that you'll see more different type of events with other games in. So they won't necessarily please you if you're a StarCraft fan, because they might be for, I don't know, Shoot Mania or something, but there'll be more diverse events, if that makes sense. If I've really made that very clear, but In terms of StarCraft 2, yeah, there'll be plenty of great StarCraft 2 events next year if all the plans that are in place come off. I can guarantee you that. That's for sure. It's going to be an amazing year for StarCraft next year.
All right, cool.
And you can hold me to that.
I think, I think the same thing. I agree, and I love it. We're saying Dota, and Dota hasn't even released yet. So
Nope.
Yeah, that's exactly my point. Is that so far we're seeing an increase in player base while the game is still in beta. So I don't know. It's kind of gray area. It's not as clear, as straightforward as Red Eye would say. I mean, in my opinion. But if Red Eye would say it, you're the experienced guy, so I believe you.
Don't believe everything we say.
No, don't believe everything I say.
we don't know.
I'm very bullish about esports as well, notoriously bullish. And I always try and think that the best is going to happen.
Yeah.
And it sometimes doesn't. But I hate that whole negative feeling. I want to be positive about stuff, and I've got no reason not to be positive about next year, having seen a few things. So yeah, it'll be a good year.
I think worst case next year. I'm hoping worst case. For me, is probably. I'm not sure. Maybe the growth will not be like that. Won't be the trajectory it was this year. But there'll be a lot of like consolidate or just really stabilizing everything. So
that's what I was going to say. I
will
think there's going to be more
just really
sustainable
strong.
growth.
Yeah,
We're going to see it. We're going to see growth that is growth for the future.
Yeah.
It may seem small, maybe in 2013, like minor changes and things probably going on behind the scenes that we're not going to know about. But that's going to be the real growth, I think.
Yeah, all the structure will start to take place, and
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll have an infrastructure that we can build. We can continue to grow on maybe the following year. Who knows? But I think a lot of plumbing will be put in place this year.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Thank you for taking my call, and great show,
Thank you.
guys. Thank you.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
Yeah, you too.
Happy holidays.
And you know what? I'm not saying Merry Holidays or Happy Holidays, right? I know that you do in America, and that's fine because you've always done that. But it's become a thing in Europe recently where we're supposed to say Happy Holidays so that we don't offend anyone of any non-Christian religion. Well, I'm sorry. It's called Christmas. Get used to it.
I'm with you, Paul.
I'm not
Or
offending
Happy
anyone.
Hanukkah.
I'm just waiting for Slash.
Merry
Exactly.
Kwanzaa.
I don't force people to say Happy Hanukkah if they aren't of that religion. Just because it might offend me. Otherwise, it doesn't offend me if you say Happy Hanukkah to me. That's absolutely fine.
Right. Draken,
Well,
what
we
up?
live in the
What up,
times.
man? Yeah, you there? Draken?
Oh, sorry. Mic was muted.
Oh, no problem. Hey, man. How's it going?
Hey. Yeah,
Hey,
good,
good
good. Yeah,
Good
you just have to forgive me because I might stumble a bit. I'm a little nervous because I get to talk to Red Eye. It's,
Yeah, I get nervous every show too, talking to
Guys.
I've been watching
That
Red Eye
guy.
from forever, so it's just one of those things.
Awesome.
So my question is, first of all, thanks for taking my call on the show. But my question is, with pay-per-views, the pay-per-view model that's sort of been growing around in esports, and with MLG's experimentation and sort of NASL's for the VODs, the subscription, do you think that's something in 2013 that we'll see grow? Because that's sort of direct-to-consumer as opposed to sponsorship. Do you think that's something that a model that, even though everyone sort of freaks out when that comes up, but it does sound like it's something that would be more sustainable in the long run than sponsorship?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean-
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, I know what you mean. I mean, from a spectator's point of view, it can be annoying, especially if you haven't signed up for the pass at the beginning of the weekend. You sort of drop in halfway through and go, "Oh, really? I have to pay now, and it's halfway through." I think we need to get smarter as organisations of figuring out what the pricing structure is, and if you make the right price for the right amount of content that you deliver, then that's and it seems fair and reasonable. I think people will pay it. I genuinely do, and I don't think people in esports are particularly cheap about stuff. They'll pay if they get something good quality, and they expect a lot. I think, and that's right. Will it grow next year? Yeah, probably, and hopefully it will, because if it doesn't, then that's an avenue of revenue stream that will be cut off, which then inevitably leads to a spiral of going down, and that means you get less events, it means you get lower quality events, it means you get lower quality production, which means less people tune in, which means you get less revenue, and on we go down to the bottom of, well, I think you end up in hell or something. So yeah, I hope from a business point of view that actually, yeah, it does grow and it does get better next year. But I also hope that there's still plenty of ways of being able to tune in free of charge, even if it's a lower res or a lower quality or something.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get creative. You know what I mean? Let's take let's take some notes from the mobile, the mobile industry, which I work in. Everything is free. So it's all about in-app purchases. It's all about being creative with in-app purchases. So I feel like there's something that we can do with that. And, I haven't really given that much thought to it, but let's just say you can pay to chat. You can pay to, just little things that don't necessarily mean being able to watch or not.
And nominal fees, too. I think that's the key. I'm a lot more willing to pay 99 cents for something,
Right, exactly.
especially if I see the
Sure.
huge value in it.
Yeah.
And then I can walk away with it. I'm not tied to anything. I paid the 99 cents. I'm done with it.
Yep.
And think about it from a business point of view. Would you like to have 10,000 people tuning in paying 99 cents, or would you want to have 1,000 people tuning in paying $9.99?
I
Of course.
totally agree. Totally agree.
That's the economic scale we're talking about.
Yeah.
And you have to find that balance. So there's still, the leagues and organisers are still trying to find where is that tipping point that goes, actually, this gives me maximum viewers, but the same amount of money for it, and that's okay. I can pay for that, and that sort of pays for the extra streaming or the bandwidth or whatever. I mean, don't get me wrong. Twitch and owned as well, for that matter, have come along and have revolutionised this business. Absolutely, no doubt about it. And I think we'll look back in 50 years from now, and that will be the moment when we'll go, that's when it changed. That's what happened for us. But they're still having to pay tremendous bandwidth costs as well, and we shouldn't forget that. So they still need to earn money. They still need to make a profit out of it as well. And if pay-per-view is one of the ways that which we can make it all sustainable, then hurrah, great.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, I'm talking to Twitch too. Like, just instead of just having the straight up subscriptions, break it down into more different pieces.
Yeah, I want to be able to change my
modules,
name.
whatever.
Yeah, I want to be able to change my name in chat.
Yeah,
Well, that should
the
if you pay
more
99
features
cents
that you can
extra for your
offer-
sub, that's
There you
fine. You
go.
can do that.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep. The more features, and you can, and the good thing about this tipping point is that once we get to that point, and we know where it fits, and all the organizations are somewhere around there, then they're all going to start to offer more features for the same amount that you paid a month ago. They're going to continue to offer features because they want to take. Obviously, they're still competing against these other organizations.
Yep.
And-
And I
and so
totally
I-
pay 99 cents for a ChanMan chat icon.
There you go. How do we do that?
If Ben would
I don't know,
ever,
but
if
there's
Fish would ever
I
add
mean,
me
talk
to
to Ben
that,
after this, and we'll find that.
Every one of the old guys in esports should have their own, their own one. I think. I mean, you should definitely have one.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, no, I just use the Scoots one. It sort of doubles as mine. It's pretty much the same age.
Nice. Same guy. All right, Draken.
There
See, Max has got it.
All right, thanks very much, guys.
Thanks for your call, bud.
Yeah,
All right,
thanks for
your
your
answer. Yeah. Let's see. Not answer. What the hell am I talking about? Thanks for your question. God. Okay. Kyle. Kyle's next up. I cannot drag these names to save my life. There we go. Hopefully there won't be any funny icons this week.
Oh God.
Here they come.
Hey,
Hey, Kyle. What's up?
nothing much. So, what do you think about the new spectating UI, and do you think that's gonna give StarCraft the edge in esports?
I haven't gotten to check out I haven't gotten to check it out really closely. Have either of you guys gotten to look
No.
at it? You're talking about Heart of the Swarm?
Yeah, Heart of Swarm. I heard.
I've seen it. I mean, it looks great, but
Yeah, it looks great, but
Well, what do you think?
yeah, what do you think, Kyle?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I haven't even seen it. Like,
Oh, you haven't seen it either. Yeah,
So you were hoping that we had, okay.
I've seen the
Yeah.
pictures of it. It looks good, and I mean, again, I think Blizzard's been doing some wonderful things.
yeah, I think they keep
you know.
testing some stuff
It's-
with it as well, and they keep moving things around a bit. But other than that, I think it could be good. What was your original question? Was it going
This
to
is what
be
we think.
better?
Yeah. For
will it give StarCraft an edge over League of
Will they
Legends
give
or
it-
Dota?
yeah, well, I don't think. I think it's really hard to say whether it will or it won't, because you're sort of going, I'm going to buy this huge piece of toffee and put it around my apple, and I'm going to compare that with an orange and put toffee around that. And I don't know if you can really sort of say which toffee's better because the insides. I think we're comparing different things, and I don't
Yeah.
think having a great spectator client necessarily makes the game well, it doesn't make the game better, but I do know what you mean in terms of it would perhaps it would improve the viewer experience. But then we've got some fantastic observers.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
we were going to
You
talk
know,
about
that produce fantastic games that I'm not that worried about. I don't think it's one of the issues that needs solving somehow. I think the balance issues need solving. I think there's some bigger issues that would make StarCraft
I'd like
2
to
a
be
better
able to
game.
tell the difference
think-
between the two players on the. I can't. I'm sorry.
That's sorry, man, but that's user error.
Yeah, that's just
Well,
that's
no.
just that's,
I
that's
want
just
pro
old
mode
eyes.
skins,
is
Paul.
what
I
that
want
is.
pro mode skins. I want bright red or bright
Well, they have
lime
those
skins.
skins. They have those
versus
skins
blue.
that are.
You
super,
realise that
super
they're
bright.
like red and blue, John, right?
I can't, but it's I don't know. My
He's
old
colorblind.
eyes.
When
can't
you're
seem to tell
colorblind, it's all the same.
difference.
But no, I think one thing that they could add is multiple cameras. Like having multiple observers and
Yep.
and the tournaments really using that in their production, so that you can go camera 1, camera 2, and that sort of
Imagine
thing.
a
instead of-
imagine a first person camera too, from the eye of one of the, Zerglings running in or something.
They already have that. What do you mean? They already have first-person cameras.
In StarCraft?
Well, you
Never
can
seen
watch
it.
what the player is watching. Yeah, that
No,
did
I mean
he-
literally as if you were one of the little guys on the field running around, like literally
Did,
one of them.
Oh my
did
God,
any of
okay.
you
Yeah,
ever see the
crazy.
World in Conflict spectator client?
No, I never saw
Okay,
that.
so this was 4 or 5 years ago now, maybe 6 years ago, maybe. It was singularly the greatest commentator cam thing I've ever seen in my entire life. It worked on dual screens, and on one screen you had 9 panels. And you could basically have whatever those panels you clicked on would be what showed on your other, which would be them streamed out. So you could almost do director mode from your little 9 screens. And they would have things that were going... So in World of Conflict, you had these nukes that you could set off. But they had like you would set them off, but they would take 30 seconds to reach their destination. As soon as one of the players selected a nuke, it flashed up on one of your squares and said nuke, and it would count down to the point at which it would go. You could actually click that screen with 10 seconds to go, and it would then follow the nuke in to where it would land and show you the explosion when you came out. It would do it all automatically, director mode. And it was utterly amazing. So someone that
that's
comes
pretty
up with...
nice.
Yeah, someone that comes up with something like that, where it can predict what's going on in the game. It's much harder in StarCraft, of course, but you can kind of teach it after a while, I think, as to...
Well, you're going to put those observers to out of
exactly
jobs.
right. So if this is going to do this, then this can equal that, then actually I'll go to that piece of action. So there's all sorts of ways that it can be done. So yeah, in effect, it's called, Adabisi bot. Or Heaven bot.
Speaking of Adabisi, he's going
Yeah.
to be on next week. But yes, observers, one of the most underrated roles in esports right now, and it's just recently has been starting to get more attention and exposure as it should. So yeah, that's Adabisi. We're going to talk to him next week about a lot of it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, G2 Wolves was Firefall has the same thing and works for Spectator. I actually used their esports stuff at Gamescom in August, which was in its very early. I think that was actually the first time they'd used it externally, and that was great too. Being able to press director buttons and go off to place. And CS:GO has also just recently had an upgrade to make their Spectator client work. So all of the game. The good news is this. All of the publishers now understand that to make a successful esports game, the spec mode has to be great.
Right.
And I've been, trying, and along with many other commentators, for about 10 years now to get them to understand that. And we are now on the verge of that happening. And so what will now happen is that when games become ready for release, they'll come with these things automatically built in, never mind being built a year, 2 years
Yeah,
later.
Paul. Hey, Paul. We would have thought that years ago.
Yeah.
But Tribes, for example, so there's some games that come in. League of Legends itself came in with no spectator mode.
Yeah.
You would think that.
Yeah,
and you would like to
Call of
believe that.
Duty 4, I believe, didn't even have a spec mode. You couldn't actually spectate a game.
Yeah.
I remember rightly, on the very first day of release, there was no spec client whatsoever. You couldn't connect to a game. You couldn't even view it in spec mode. You had to be In fact, Battlefield, when it first came in 1942, which I commentated on a very long time ago, you actually had to join as a player and die
Just like Brood War.
and spec mode through death cam. That's how you had to do it. So there were 7 players on each team, 1 spec on each side, and you both had to die, kill yourselves with grenades, and then respawn back out into the game as a death cam spectator. And if you ever clicked the wrong button at some point, you respawned into the game. It was like, oh no, what have I done? I've ruined their match. because you lost tickets, of
Or
course, if you got killed. So yeah, it was awful.
Or the Brood War where you had to spawn as Tear and kill your workers, lift up,
Yeah.
float to the bottom
Yeah.
of the map.
I'll go back in
That was
history.
the worst. That was the worst, man. But all right, Kyle, thanks for your question, man.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks.
you.
Happy Christmas.
All right, one more. I think we have. Okay, we have this really long one. Oh my gosh, this long. But he's not gonna. They're not gonna call in. So it says, while we're talking about paying for things, this is from Reese, by the way. I've often been put off buying passes due to the level of professionalism, I guess, I've previously encountered when listening to streams. In SE2, the games have become very standardized in a way that there's not a lot of variety, and I find commentators talking about random crap. Good example is the GOM commentators, I guess Tastos is just my opinion, so take it as you will. I know they have downtime, but they should be using this to catch people up to speed with players. Do you not think they need to treat it more professionally for people to take esports seriously? I noticed they try at MLG and with analysis of the game, and it's generally quite bad, but you can't get away with exciting commentary as you do in CSGO. It's a slow game like poker or the NFL. They constantly analyze situations for you and the viewers. So I guess he's saying that he doesn't think the casters are professional enough for.
I would disagree.
Yeah,
I think the commentators at the top end are very professional. I think the biggest compliment they could get, and it's the trouble with analysing commentators and hosts for that matter, is that it's a very personal experience to each of us. I mean, there are commentators that I really enjoy, and there are commentators I don't enjoy. And it's the same in any other sport as well. I watched Formula One for many years with a guy called Murray Walker, who was a legendary commentator. I would honestly tell you that he was probably one of the guys that enthused me to watch the sport in the first place. Since he retired, I was kind of like, commentators are a bit, But I've been used to that guy for about 20 years. So no wonder the new guy that came in I didn't like. It was unfamiliar. And once I got used to him, I actually thought, you know what, he's all right. And then he left, and someone else came, and I was like, oh, this guy's rubbish. Bring the other guy back. And I've been moaning about him for years. So I think it's a very personal experience. Some people prefer commentators to be really professional. Some prefer them to be jovial and fun and be what esports is about.
Well, I think you can be professional and be jovial and fun, too.
You absolutely can, but there are different levels of that as well. Right. What someone moaned about the fact that I swore earlier. Well, tough shit. We're on a show, and it's my time off, and I don't get paid for this, so I'll say what I like, and it's no fluff. So you get what you see with me. I'm sorry, that's just it. Does that make me unprofessional? No, it doesn't make me unprofessional.
Right.
Because when I go out on a stage and I present 100,000 people, no, I'm not going to stand there and swear because it's about an appropriate level of response.
That's so interesting you bring that up because that reminds me of the whole Destiny thing. I don't want to go back there, but I think him in front of a crowd doing casting, he was very professional. But people just immediately wanted to tune him out because it's Destiny.
Yeah.
But you can be professional and then do what we're doing here and have fun and enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
Yeah, no, you absolutely can. I mean, to get back to the answer to the question, yes, I think at the top level, all of the casters that I know and that I've met and have been an admirer of or have worked with over the last 10 years have all been very professional. I don't think of any of them have been unprofessional. I think there are levels of... I mean, if you talk to Tasteless, for instance, if you ask him what it was like in 05, 06 when he was doing commentary, I think he'd probably admit, not to being unprofessional, but I think he would probably admit to being... rough around the edges and not maybe always in tune with what the audience really wanted. He just did what he thought was cool for himself and enjoyed it. Tasteless now is much more self-aware. He's much more aware of the, what is the show? What is the storyline? What is it about that will make these people at home enjoy this more? And combined with his wit and his spontaneity and his professionalism. So, no, I don't think they're unprofessional if they have a bit of fun on air. You're absolutely dead right about dead air. I mean, the fact that we've got so much downtime in esports is a real problem. But again, I watched IEM Cologne over the weekend. There was virtually no downtime in that whatsoever. IPL 5 did a fantastic job of filling time. And we're getting better at it. But that is the hardest thing because you're talking about having multiple crews of people going out and either doing something live and then having it set up, and then you're talking about quality of talent to fill those extra positions. You're talking about players being media trained and ready to be, used and what have you. So there's just so many things, and money is another key issue because you need lots of different crews to go and do all of this extra stuff. So it'll get there.
But an organization, I think the person that does the best with dead time is NASL. and some of that stuff is pre-recorded, done, produced beforehand, and then used the filler, and some of it is live. But they do a great job of that. They even have a clock on the overlay whenever they're kind of just off, just whatever, break time or whatever. And that for me is one of the best things, because I have expectations. I know when it's going to be back. It's unlike DreamHack or any of the ones where I'm just like, okay, I'm sitting here, I'm just okay, I'm gonna go do something else, and then when I hear that come back, just like the audio come back, then I'll switch back over. But they do a great job of that, and hopefully other tournaments will take a look at that too, because dead time sucks right now, for sure. But okay, Reese, thanks for the question. I think that's gonna be it for the questions, guys. But any last words of just, I guess, for not last words, gosh, I mean
last words before the end of the world.
Before the end of the world, yeah.
Yeah, we had 3 days left. Is that 3 days left?
3 days
2.5 days now.
I'm
But
trying to
has
look
anyone
around,
worked
trying
out
to
what
think of-
time it is on that day? Because it would be nice to know. Because I've got some Christmas shopping I'd like to finish in the morning.
Yeah.
But who cares about Christmas when?
Well, I'm going to have Christmas on the 21st. Screw you guys.
That's true. Bucket
That's a good
list.
point.
It's Ball's bucket list, but but yes, any. Oh, I'll start it off. How about this? So I last kind of 2012 kind of even though we're gonna have a show next week, John, so this is kind of weird for us, but I'll just do it anyway since Paul's not gonna be here.
Yeah, I'm not around next week. Sorry.
Yeah, he's not gonna be here, guys.
Apologies now.
So
I'm
yeah,
with
so
children stuff.
Exactly.
That's good.
I have it too, but they have nap times. My children are young enough to still have to take naps. So
Yeah, no, mine's 14 and doesn't have naps.
Exactly. But I just wanted to say that I started the show. Me and John started the show in April, and I have to say, the show's I have gone way beyond, I think, our expectations, John. Right? It's just we started. Just me and him. And this whole Skype conversation that we always talk about esports all the time, and whether it's just from other industry folks too, and having a show where we can just do this on air, and bring on guys like Paul, great guys like Paul, and as a host now, and a lot of other guests that we've had over time, and I think it's just been amazing. Like these last 7-8 months for Climbing the Ladder, I think has been so much enjoyment for me. And hopefully it has for all you viewers, and hopefully educational also, and hopefully we'll continue to do it. Hopefully Climbing the Ladder will continue to be a show or a beacon, a point for the community where you'll find out what's really going on with the industry. Just kind of the current state of the industry and that sort of thing. So yeah, I just want to thank you guys for making it, I guess, the success as it has been up to this point, and I'll definitely continue, doing everything I do for the show, just going into 2013.
Oh, you want me to say something?
Wait, one for you.
Awkward silence.
Well, I was looking around my room at all my stuff, the posters and stacks of paperwork and stuff, and thinking, this really has been I didn't realize, I was telling someone the other day, I didn't realize this, and said, I said, yeah, I think we're on episode 12. And this was like last week.
Yeah, we're like episode 36 now.
They have gone by so fast, and there's been going back to what we were talking about earlier, Paul's gone to 23 events this year. I mean, I don't even think people understand, that is a lot of time of this year used up, plus working full time. And I was in a similar situation. I've got a wife and 2 kids, one of which is 15, so he's a handful, and a 5-year-old, and then I'm taking classes, additional graphic design
14,
courses.
John.
What?
Try a girl at 14.
Oh man, shotgun
Oh,
time.
she's a 14-year-old
Yeah,
girl?
Yeah.
Oh,
good
sorry, I
lord.
shouldn't say shotgun. I should say.
Okay, yeah,
something
that
else.
sucks.
Something else.
That sucks. I have a 5-year-old, and she's bad enough.
Yeah, I have a 5-year-old too.
Oh,
Man.
are we brothers by chance? No.
Yeah, I think
5-year-old
interconnected
too.
across the water.
I don't even remember this
Contraception
year, Chris. I don't remember this year. I just don't. There's just been
No, actually, that's
seriously
a good point. I'm the same as John. Same for
Just-
me.
there's just
I was
so
in
much
Ukraine a
going
couple
on.
of weeks ago, I think, doing IEM. Oh no, that was January. Well, what do you know?
Listen, it's nice to reflect on it. You know what I mean? Just at least take a little bit of moment just to say, yeah, that was nice. All right, let's go on.
Yeah.
Hey,
I have a
Wolf,
lot
leave
of
that
That's
out
what
for
today's
jokes. That's
for,
not
man.
funny.
And I thought after not being with CSN anymore that I'd be able to just take a deep breath and be like, okay, maybe this isn't so bad. I've got a lot more time to just do nothing, I guess. But nope, I'm actually just as busy, if not busier now, than I was before. And it's just crazy. It's good though. It's really good.
No,
So
it is.
it shows there's a lot going on. That's for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So Vice Conroy says it's my turn to talk about my history on the show. So thanks for the 4 episodes I've been involved in. It's been fantastic. Thanks, guys. And also,
Good.
GT Wolf, who often abuses me, but usually in a good way, says that Alzheimer's is kicking in already. Well, the good news is, Wolf, that I won't actually remember what you said in about 5 minutes from now.
So it won't
it's
even
fine.
bother you.
Yeah, it
That
doesn't
troll
matter.
won't count. That troll doesn't count, Wolf.
See, Alzheimer's counters trolls.
That's what every I think esports personality needs is a form of Alzheimer's to forget a lot of things and just move on.
Yeah.
But all right, guys, you want to do any last shout outs for this episode?
I'm just going to say Merry Christmas to everyone that's tuned in, everyone in StarCraft, seeing everyone that I know across
Slash,
esports.
just throw a chair out now.
And especially you two guys, have a great Christmas, and I'll see you in the new year.
Absolutely.
John,
Yeah, my shout outs. I'm going to post a link. It is for the. Jeez, I can't remember. Anyway, it's for a tournament tomorrow. Jeez, this is terrible. I've heard the Alzheimer's kicking in right now. I got too many going on. Right? It's the GGA Grand Finals, and it's 32 players from 4 different regions tomorrow, and it starts at 10 a.m. Pacific. And for the 200 and some odd people, or almost 300 people watching, I need some casters. And I'll probably talk to you later, Chris, too. I need like 2 casters for tomorrow. 10 a.m. PST. That's the link to the brackets. There's going to be. I need an admin for it too, possibly. I'm basically
Josie man.
It's
Exactly.
Goes to Gamers is hosting the bracket. It was on Play-In. They've been working with Play-In, but that didn't obviously quite work out. So any help that message me on Skype or Twitter, and we'll see if I can't get you some help. So anyway, that's all I got.
awesome. My shout out. It sounds cheesy. I never ever say anything about just giving a shout out to like my wife. All right. But I'm going to give a shout out to my wife at the end of the year because, she's not an esports person. Like, she doesn't even get any of this, honestly. So she's so tolerant of me doing this. And you guys know it's a lot of work, right? And, I mean, John has probably a good indication of how much stuff I do. So, like, big shout out to her for being tolerant of me doing all this esports stuff. And lastly, just the mods, like Vice Conroy, who always gives everybody shit, but he's only joking half the time. He's been around since the very beginning of my Pro Corner show. So big shout out to those guys. And I'm doing Pro Corner holiday episode like in an hour after this at 7. And I'm going to be giving away lots of goodies and presents.
Mountains of stuff.
This is only like half of it. Like the great people at Blizzard is freaking awesome. Blizzard's going to provide a lot of gear to give away for our holiday special. So tune in to Pro Corner in an hour, guys. Same channel, same everything. Free swag, yes. Free shit, guys. What can I say? I can't say anything else. Like, you don't even have to jump through hoops or anything. Just free stuff. So we'll figure out some fun ways to do it. Okay, maybe you will have to jump through hoops. But yeah. So anyways, we're going to be doing that. Yes, beta keys too. Well, there'll be 50 hardest one beta keys too. So lots of gear and beta keys. But yeah, so that's going to be it for Climbing the Ladder this episode. Next week we're going to have one just kind of one right after Christmas. It's going to actually be on the 27th. So it's not going to be on Tuesday since Tuesday is going to be Christmas. So we'll have it on. I know Tuesdays fall on Christmas and New Year's, man. So we're going to.
I was just thinking of your poor
if
wife.
the world has not ended.
Oh, if
Let's just make that clear. If the world has not ended, we will have that show.
We will still
Otherwise,
have it in the afterworld.
Right.
And Adabisi's still going to be joining us in the afterworld as an observer. He's going to be looking at us as ghosts, and and we'll still be talking shit about the industry. No, just kidding. No, but yeah. So Adabisi will be on to kind of talk about, you know, his kind of story. He's got a great story too. Just, you know, and him now being, you know, part of the good show and just having, you know, making money, you know, just making a living being in esports. So, but yeah, that's going to be it, guys. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Merry Christmas.
Peace. Merry Christmas.
Happy Hanukkah.
Happy Kwanzaa.